It's Brainiac from Kenner, the Super Powers collection line of toys from 1984. This figure, measuring approximately 5 inches tall, has been plagued with a couple of common issues familiar to collectors. The left arm is usually broken off, and many times it's missing, and the blue tint to the vac-chromed figure is wearing off. In areas on the figure from just handling and age. This episode, I'm showing how I repaired the arm and the process I took to bring the blue tint back to the chrome. Although this figure is sought out by collectors now, it was primarily a toy, so it's in played with condition. And most of these figures now have left arms broken off, like this one, from kids gripping across the body to work the right arm mechanism to see the computer kick action feature. In order to get the repairs underway, I'll be working to remove the old glue on the shoulder pieces, and so I can better see what's going on currently and figure out a stable repair. There's some scuffing overall to the figure. It's playwear and pretty much expected. His clear dome over his brain area is yellowed. It's a little cloudy looking. So I'll see what I can do with that to kind of tune that up as well. The bluish tint here over the chrome is pretty uneven and worn from handling and play. So I'm going to try out an idea here on getting that restored. The kick mechanism is still working great, so that's good news. The head is a little wobbly. Left leg that isn't rigged with an action feature, it's a little wobbly too. So both of those, I want to improve that loose action in those joints. The left arm has a lot of old glue in the broken joint area. The printed on graphics on the shoulder area are still strong and looking good. I don't know if you can tell just yet here, but the bluing on the left arm is much stronger than the bluing on the rest of the body. You can get a pretty good idea from that arm broke off early on, but the figure was still played with. So first, I'm going to work on removing the old yellowed glue on the figure. To start softening and working the glue off, I'm going to carefully apply lighter fluid and just let that soak in and stand. So how long do I let it stand? I just let it stand basically until it's evaporated away. Then I'm going to start using my freer elevator tool here, coming in carefully on the edges of the glue to start prying at it that way to get a loose edge to form. Initial areas of old glue are breaking loose, but some of it is still pretty solid and it's brittle, it's hard. Inside the broken arm shoulder socket has a good amount of caked in glue. From what I'm seeing and trying to figure out here as I go, is that it looks like the original shoulder socket piece is still in there. It's kind of a button shaped disc looking thing. And from what it looks like, the arm socket in production here, that it slid down over the disc, that shoulder shape there, until it was fully seated into the arm socket. I'm using a wax carving tool here to work that button shaped piece down and out of the socket area. I don't want to destroy this piece because it could play a part in the final repair. So I've been able to get that broken piece out. It's chromed in the blue finish from production on the one side, and the other side it's looks like a white plastic material where that break occurred on the opposite. There's more old glue to remove and coming out of that socket in the arm and around the broken disc section from there. So getting a chance to size it up with the broken shoulder peg, how it was originally designed. And yes, you can see how easily these just sheared off from having the stationary arm squeezed against the torso while kids were working that mechanized arm for the computer kick action feature. Just it put a lot of stress on that joint and causing that failure. This shoulder disc connection piece is measuring in at 17/64ths of an inch. That's about the best I can see for it. I'm going to be cleaning up the jagged edge break in the plastic to make sure the repair has an even surface. And I'm using just a flat needle file for that. I'm using my twist drill here and these mini-sized Dremel bit to bore into the protruding shoulder peg. And then I'm going to size it up in drill bit sizes because I want to be careful not to go crooked and then also to reduce the chance of cracking this outer broken peg here that's sticking out. So instead of the repair being on the surface and then risking the break to just repeat again later on, I'm going below the surface to reinforce and repair at the original break point. Initially, looking at it, I was trying a trim down flat headed screw, but even with it being a similar size screw head, the fit did not sit well in the socket. And I'm using the polystyrene tubes here. I just got a pack of those. It's been pretty handy to have that on hand for different projects, but I'm going to measure the depth going into this and trim off a section for this repair. The thing to be watchful about here is the mechanism from the right arm that triggers that leg for that kick action is pretty well centered into the chest area. So you have to be careful about the depth that your repair piece sits into this shoulder, or else it's going to block and interfere with that kick mechanism. The center of this tube that I'm using is made with a hollow opening there. So I have a tiny brad here with a flat head that fits snugly. It's a good tight fit there. So I've drilled a centered hole into that broken shoulder disc piece. It's only about the size for the brad to fit through. The brad fits through snugly and into the styrene tube. These pieces will all be glued together first before inserting. So after this repair plug section has had time to set up, the whole piece glues carefully until that drilled out shoulder socket. So again, careful with that glue and how heavily that's applied because you don't want that to risk getting into that inner kick mechanism and then fouling up the works there. It's a very snug fit, and with the brad center reinforcement, it should be extremely sturdy and a repeat break now avoided. Having a good tight fit and not depending on the glue to do the work for you will help to aid in the sturdiness. And so just kind of doing a good test fit here, I warmed up the softer plastic sleeve that sits inside the arm socket for a good test fit and checking on the levelness of it all. Finally, now that I've checked things out, a drop of glue into the shoulder socket before reinserting that vinyl plastic sleeve that holds onto that disc joint. And just going to add that to the strength and performance for this repair. Brainiac is back in action with his reinforced shoulder and still having a free range of motion in that rotation. And the kick mechanism, everything's working good, nice and solid. So now I'm going to attempt to give Brainiac the blues here. Actually, I'm going to see what I can do to bring back the worn bluish tint that's over his chrome body. So I'm taking a basic approach to this using mop and glow, no wax floor cleaner and polish, and I'm adding 3 drops of blue food coloring for my tint. You could use the watercolor, liquid concentrates, or similar other color additives, but the blue food coloring just seems to me to be good for the situation here. Mixing that all up well, and I'm using a dampened brush just with a little bit of water in it, and shaking out the excess water from the bristles, and then just start brushing it on over the figure. If you're having a little bit of difficulty of this beating up in areas on the figure, just lightly fanning over those areas here that as you're treating them, brushing it on to give it a chance to build up a little tackiness and then reapplying the brush tinting over it all. It should then even out and adhere. You'll find some areas need more coating than others because of handling and uneven wear to it. Patience, a little bit of drying time breaks in this step will also give it a nice even tone. I know a lot of this bluing was coming off on the figure just as I was cleaning around the shoulder joint that had broken um, on the figure itself, not on the arm, but around that peg. After I removed the gluing and then just using a Q-tip cotton swab with some alcohol to clean that surface before applying any glue there. Just the rubbing alcohol on that, it was removing the bluing that was around that shoulder peg area. So uh, the original bluing is very fragile of a surface treatment. So if you have a figure and you're wanting to kind of clean it up, be very careful. Just soap and water type thing. like a diluted dish soap, sprayed on or used to clean it with, but nothing abrasive like a glass cleaner. I've got the feeling if you use anything very strong, it's going to remove actually more of the original bluing that's on these figures. So afterwards, I gave it a good overnight to thoroughly really set up a strong finish on it before handling it. As you're working with the tinting and whatnot, you can brush some of the excess mix into joints and allowing them to dry as well. It'll minimize wobbliness on the figure. It helped with the neck joint. The head was very wobbly, and the left hip was very loose um, range of motion. So it just helped to tighten the joints up. Just getting some side by side before and after views, comparison of the clear plastic head dome and full body view of that body tinting. So I'm going to try putting the figure here against a white background to try and give a better contrast view of the blue tinting to see how that fared, how it turned out. You know, the left arm that had really its original blue tint intact, and compared to the rest of the body here now, just has a natural tone in comparison. Um, the left arm, which I could tell must have broke off earlier on when the kid had this, and then they just continued to play with the rest of the figure, which had more wear, loss of the blue tone to it. So, but now with the arm intact back on the figure, everything has a good, even match in that bluing. It's a pretty interesting action figure. You know, I've always liked robots since I was a kid. My first influence was Fritz Lang's Metropolis on PBS. So this fares in there with my love and interest of robots. This particular figure, you know, suffering from such a common issue of that broken arm and the loss of the blue tone was a bit of a challenge, but the outcome here is satisfying. It's a pretty cool figure. So that is my repair process. It's probably not the only way to do this, but this is the process I took to create a repair that would be one that would be sturdy and keep the original function of the toy. So uh, hopefully that helps you out. Also, the process here, experimenting with that tinting to restore that chrome. That can carry on over into other figures. I think of my Star Wars C-3PO, where his gold tone has gotten so worn on that chrome underbase. So could be another project here to look into and experiment with this process here. So hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to share with your other fellow collectors, your social media, whatever platform you want to share it on. And hit the like. Let me know in the notes if it helped you out. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you are feeling motivated enough to be an extra supporter in the behind the scenes members, you can check that out, see what's involved there. And as always, thanks for watching here on YouTube, Toy Tinker Tim.